unicorn pillow, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pattern pieces, and you're going to cut each pattern piece out and attach them to your fabric with some pins. When you pin, like I did that one wrong, when you pin, your pins need to be facing outward. And if you would like to do more pins, you can, but make sure you have enough pins so that it's not moving all over the place. Each pattern piece will tell you how many pieces you need to cut. For example, this is your hair. It goes on top of your unicorn. You need 1 piece, and it's your hair. So you're going to select whatever color felt you'd like your hair to be. If it says 2, you can fold your fabric in half. If you pin them together, you only have to cut once. Your horn, you need 2 pieces for your horn, so I have 2 layers here. I'm going to fold them, put them together, pin them together, and I'll go ahead and cut right out. And my horse's or my unicorn's face, it says cut 2, and whenever you see something like this where it says on the fold, this piece of fabric is folded right here. So when I open it up, it'll be a whole face. It says cut 2. I have 2 pieces of fabric that are folded and put together. Alright, so you've had all your pieces cut out. Now you can start taking your pattern pieces off, but we're going to start with our ears. What we're going to do is we're going to take our ears apart, take off the pattern piece, and you need to separate your fabric into 2 sets of ears, and you want to match them up like this. You're going to take your pins, and you're going to pin around the edge like so. Probably using about 5 pins. You're going to do the same to both ears and the horn. Also going to do the same thing to your unicorn. Take off your pattern pieces. Open it up. You're going to pin all the way around except for the top. Time lapse. All right, you're also going to take your hair piece. Go ahead and take your pins off. You're going to slide your hair in the center. Line it up so that the middle part is in the middle of the head. And it wants to line up just with the edges of your fabric. So right now it's kind of hard to see, I bet. But right now this is the middle, so I need to scooch it over just a bit. And you're leaving this open because you also have to insert that horn. Oh, you know what? Don't pin that part either because we still have to put our ears on. All right, so right now we're just going to, and for now, I'm going to put a pin here so my hair doesn't move and doesn't move. I can always take that pin out later. All right, next we're going to take all of these pieces over to the sewing machine. We have our ears. Remember that the part you did not pin is the bottom of your ears. You're not going to sew that. You're not going to sew the bottom of your horn. So you're going to take over to your sewing machine. You need to sew the 2 sides of each ear, 2 sides of the horn. When we go to sew the unicorn, we have to put our ears and our horn in before we do that. So the face is ready to go, but just leave it off to the side until you're ready for it. So we're going to take this to the machine, sew our 2 ears and our horn. We going? All right. So here we go. We've got our ears. We're going to start with our back stitch at half of an inch. My machine says 5/8 of an inch, so half an inch is 1 line over. If you have a piece of blue tape and want to mark it, you can, because all of our seams are going to be right at that 1/2 inch mark. I'm going to start by making sure my threads are pulled back and not tangled up in my presser foot. Make sure they're pulled back. You're going to start in a little bit past the beginning, roll your needle down, put your presser foot down, make sure you back stitch to the end. Take out your pins as you go. You make sure you take them out. Do not sew over your pins. Slowly work your way all the way, turning your ears very easily as you go. Here's the tricky part. When you get almost to the end, you're going to stop. You're going to leave your needle in the ear, pick up the presser foot, and twist your ear around. Put your presser foot back down and slowly finish sewing your ear. You got to the curve, you got to slow down. Sometimes when the needle's down, you can pick up that presser foot and slowly turn your ear just a little bit. Go a little bit farther, do the same thing till you get to the end of your ear. When you get there, make sure you back stitch. As you see, I also did the same thing to the horn. Now this fabric's a little bit stiffer. Just gotta make sure when you're done, you go back and you just kind of give it a light tug to make sure your lines are nice and straight. They're not all puckery. You're gonna take your scissors and trim those threads. Before you do that, you're going to take your your scissors, and trim all the way up to the point. And you can even trim some of that off, especially on the top. Okay, pause that and take it back. All right, like I said, over on this side, when you get your horn done, go ahead and trim it. You're going to push, it's hard to see, but you're going to trim all the way to that thread, just around the curvy parts. You're going to do the same thing to the ears. You're just going to trim a little bit close to the thread. Don't cut through the thread. All the way around. You're also going to want to just trim off the top corner of each ear. All right, go ahead and do both ears. You're going to trim off the top and then trim, it's called clipping, all the way to the thread. Sometimes if your scissors aren't very sharp, you have to kind of go in like that. But of course, do not cut over those threads. You're going to take each of those pieces and turn them right side out. And use your finger or like the eraser of a pencil to make sure all those pieces are nice and shoved in there with your ears and your horn. What you do now, this horn here, you might want to take your, I'm going to use my scissors because I don't have an eraser with me, but use your back end of a pencil eraser and poke the end of that horn out. See how it got nice and sharper, I guess you could say. You're going to take your fluff, your stuffing, and what you want to do is you want to pull it apart like this and get all the lumps out before you stuff it in your horn and in your ears. Your horn doesn't need very much. You don't want it to be so super tough that it will stick straight up. Again, you might want to use your pencil eraser to shove some of the stuffing up in there, but you don't want too much. I'm going to put a little bit more in. Okay, you want to keep the end of your horn so that it has enough room that we can still sew it in. Okay, at this point you might want to take a pin and just kind of pin it close so your fluffing doesn't fall out. You're going to do the same thing with your ears, but you're not going to stuff them as full. This is just to give your ears a little bit of shape. I'm going to give them a little. Okay. All right, now you've got your two ears and your horn. You're going to put them into the top of your unicorn's head upside down. So when you turn it the right way, it'll go the right way. So take your horn. You're going to take that pin out where your hair is, and it's going to go right in front of your hair. Make sure that other pin comes out as well. And you're going to pin your horn in all four layers. You've got a layer of unicorn, horn, hair, unicorn. So I'm going to put 3 pins in just to make sure this thing doesn't slip around. You're going to do the same thing with your ears. Notice how your ears kind of have an out. They're not symmetrical. So you have to decide, do you want the pointy edges going out or do you want them pointing in? I want mine like that. So I'm going to decide how I want them, flip them upside down, and stick them inside the top of his head. Okay, making sure you do the same type of pinning over here. I'm going to put 3 pins on this ear as well. And you'll repeat for the other ear. You want to make sure you line up those here. So I have like a little bit of space between that horn and this ear, so I want the same amount of space between this horn, this ear, and the horn. All right, you're now going to take this over to the machine, but before you do that, you're going to leave a space over on the side of the head, a really small space, but big enough that the horn and the ears can fit through. So see this space right here? I don't want to sew there. So I'm going to take some pins and mark it sideways so that when I get to that point while I'm sewing, I remember not to sew here. All right, you might even go like that. So I know I'm not going to sew here. All right, so we're going to start right at the end of where I marked all those pieces off. I don't want to sew here. I'm going to start right below that. Again, make sure your thread's not tangled up. You're going to line up the edge with your tape or the 1/2 seam allowance. Roll in your needle. Remember to backspace. Oh, sorry, press your foot down, then backspace. Then you're going to go all the way around, making sure you slow down around those corners because you always want to make sure you're lined up right there on the end of that 5/8 seam allowance. You can do the same thing that you did with the horn. When you get a sharp turn, you can stop. As long as your needle's in the fabric, you can pick up that presser foot and turn it a little bit. Sew a little bit more, press their foot up. All right, we're getting towards the top where all of these pins are, and we have our fluffy, our ear, our horn, our ear, and our purple hair. So we want to make sure we slow down around these edges, and we start, when we get to these pins, we have to take them out, but we want to make sure our needle goes over the ear before we start taking out pins. Very slow. We don't need to rush. Just kind of push it down with both sets of fingers. Remember, your fingers need to stay on the sides of the needle, so push that fabric down, but keep it away from the needle. Here I'm coming up on the horn. It's okay if it gets a little bit wrinkly. Not too wrinkly, but a little bit's okay. It's okay just to kind of push that fabric down, make it nice and smooth. And if you need help with this part, you can always ask one of the teachers. All right, I'm coming up to the other side of his head, and I'm coming up to that spot that I don't want to sew through. So I'm keeping track. I'm going to get up to that blue thread needle pin, and I'm going to back stitch. And I'm going to gently pull it out of the machine and cut the thread, and I can take these pins out now. All right, so here we go. We've taken it out of the machine. We got to take our scissors. We've got to clip all of our loose threads. Give it a nice little haircut. And then we're going to do the same thing with all the edges here. See all these rounded edges? If we don't clip them, when we turn them out, they'll be all puckery. And we don't want that. So we're going to take our scissors and carefully clip up to the thread without going over all the way around the curved bits. So I'm going to do them around here. I'm going to do them around here. I'm going to do them up around the nose. Are we ready? Okay, so now this is where you're going to use that hole we left. You're going to open up that hole and very carefully grab your horn, pull it through, pop your ears through. There we go. Your unicorn is almost ready. All right, now the fun part begins. You're going to start taking your fluff and you're going to start stuffing your unicorn. Stuffing, make sure you're getting some down in the nose. You got to use your finger or an eraser to get the corners nice and popped out. You got to keep fluffing it till you think it's nice and full. You might not want it all the way full. You might want it a little bit flat, but I like fluffy unicorns. It kind of looks a little weird, doesn't it? But as we keep going, as we fluff it out some more, it's going to look like a nice full unicorn.